So a lot of us are in that Neptune energy right now, not realizing that we're being influenced. Things might feel a little lethargic, wondery, delusional, you know, possibly even in fantasy. Well, thank you for being here, miss. Okay. I am well, ma'am. I haven't been on in a couple days, but you know, it's been an interesting last couple days, like especially being the observer of what's going on, what's happening out in the collective versus, you know, my personal life and stuff like that. So, you know, it's a really interesting perspective that I get to have because I give myself the time to do so, to understand these things for what they are. You know what I'm saying? Like, one of the things that I first had is like Spirit is saying, like, you know, the lessons are learned, you know, and we're heading towards a new moon, you know, which a new moon, new you. But the significance of what's happening right now is way more than just new moon, new you. There's a new you right now, right here, is what Spirit is saying. So, you know, that's kind of like the victory space or the victory lap that a lot of people get to take in their lives, is realizing that very thing that we just said, you know. And it almost kind of like, when you've embraced that, it kind of bypasses the whole fucking reading because that's the outcome, you know. But the journey to get there is really interesting because there's a lot of mysticism going on right now, you know. And I'm not saying that people are necessarily fantasizing or dreaming in a false way. I think it's more so, you know, that Neptunian energy allowing people to be arise and be disillusioned is what I'm hearing. You know, allow them to have some kind of foundational clarity to see how alchemy works in their lives. And these things are intensifying. And the way that they're pointing it out here is, the way that I'm seeing it is, we're being asked to release burden right now. You know what I'm saying? It's like the final qualification for the countdown of, you know, what's happening. And the way that they show it to me is like what's happening inside one another. You know, there's like this grand reevaluational space that a lot of people that are meditating on or trying to find clarity, you know, and trying to find spirit or soul solutions to the things that ail them and one another is also part of what's going on here with this energy in this space. You know, a lot of people are trying to wonder what their power is, what their passion is, what's really important to them, what they're moving into, or possibly in question of moving into, is what I'm also getting here with this reading. And it's like, when I look at the Nine of Swords, it's like I almost don't want to go there because it just reminds me of fucking despair, you know? It just reminds me of people that are stuck, that are stagnant, that they can't get out of themselves for whatever reason, not realizing that it's all kind of like false. It's not. What's happening right now isn't fucking real. Even though it looks like shit, it's the complete opposite. It's our perspective of the situations that are going on right now that's not allowing us to see those things, right? And you'll see, like a couple of weeks back, even my wife said it, it's like they channeled this. It's like everything is fucking new. Everything is new. And if you continue to look at everything backwards, then that's what it'll be, because you're intending it to be that way. But if you'd like to see the truth and take the deeper dive within yourself to see what Spirit is trying to show you right now about how everything is reversed, and this is all kind of like a disillusion space where everything that looks like shit is not really shit. It's literally telling you in your face that you're receiving a blessing on the other side of this. You know, whatever it is going on, you know, people in your lives, places, things that disgust you that you no longer resonate with, you know, things like that just crumbling down all of a sudden right now, you know, especially in this energy. What's up, Martha? How are you? Long time, lady. And Spirit literally said, like, which one do you want to be? Do you want to choose the high side, or do you want to go through the low blows? You know, in this space, a lot with this energy, or what we're not willing to succumb to or allow ourselves to kind of like flow with right now. Because like Spirit says, it's like there's not a lot of control right now. It's more the release of control, because our idea of what we think, you know, of what we control right now is kind of like it's hindering us, because we're trying to possess something that we have already learned from in one way or another. You know what I'm saying? So we have all this energetic weight on us. Some people may be feeling heavy in the shoulders, tight in the neck, you know, possibly even feeling like there's an annoying pain between their shoulders, you reminding them of the irritation or the collective agitation that's going on right now, right? Not realizing it's actually resonating with themselves. It's like a call to go within and feel yourself out for a change, instead of kind of like looking for reasoning or confirmations without, because that only creates doubt at the moment, because you're missing the teaching here when it comes to body awareness and what spirit's actually trying to get you to kind of like pay attention to, understand, and represent somehow, you know, in a wider attention space is what they're saying, you know. So this is the adventure, but there's also kind of like a shadow aspect to what's going on right now, because people are having to see the darkness within themselves and they don't like it. And a lot of people are still disassociating or going back to their old habits and shit like that. And that's the difference between those who get affected by the tide, who are brought in, who go back into the ocean, versus the one that stay on land. You know what I'm saying? This is about evolution. This is you about coming out of the water and onto the land and being more grounded and being more foundational and thinking about long-term goals in your life, you know, aligned, that are divinely aligned with yourself, embracing that path of spirit, the embodiment itself is what they're saying. You know, we talk a lot about embodiment. Embodiment means absorbing, it means entraining, it means becoming a part of, right? A unification of self is what spirit's saying, you know? So the willingness there for a lot of people to do that isn't necessarily there unless somebody explains it to them and makes it really, really fucking easy to understand. And here we are, you know? An embracement or opening up to yourself allows you to see the layers that are actually holding you back at this time. You know what I'm saying? This is that deeper vision. This is what shamanic journeys represent. This is what deep state meditation is also about. You know what I'm saying? Or transcendent meditation. To better understand the cycle of life and what's actually happening naturally around here versus the illusion that we think is, you know, real somehow, you know? There's a lot of truth here in this message, but it's so random and it's so chaotic, and it lets me know that this is almost some of the things that we're not even supposed to focus on, to be honest with you, but some will, because they will take the bait, is what Spirit's saying. You know, don't allow yourself to be disillusioned by what's happening right now, because in order for everything to become anew again, it has to implode, right? And these are the kind of like the cycles that we don't realize that we go on naturally, you know, whether it's Mercury returns or an eclipse, or, you know, this happens every 6 months, fam, that sometimes you just switch back to handle your shit and be done with it and see the person that you are no longer and actually do something about it and create a better future for yourself, you know? So instead of being in that sorrow, anguish, emotional space, what you do is you actually legitimize whatever it is that's kind of like in your heart space right now that may be affecting you somehow, and realize that there's a profound release at the end of not only your own bullshit, but the bullshit that keeps it there. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us want to do this whole self-blame thing when we realize that, you know, when in that moment, it's actually welcoming and a gratitude, because whatever it is that's coming in that doesn't feel good is actually setting us free. You know, we may need, I don't say we need to learn from it, but we need to learn how to release these things because we've already done this before. So there's a lot of people that are enjoying the monotony of you know, cycle after cycle, bit after bit, the same shit. And, you know, you can't say that not a lot of us are tired of that, tired of experiencing these kind of like wins and then not a win for a while and then a win, you know? This is more stable energy. This is more of a promise to yourself that allows that stability to come in, you know? And that's the adventure that we all have to take, because it requires a commitment that we may be unfamiliar with, because we don't truly know what commitment is until the divine shows us what commitment means to ourselves, you know? And that sounds scary within itself, but to be honest with you, it's really not. Because when you already know what you're doing going in, then you kind of have way more confidence and awareness to what's happening, and you pay more attention, which also enhances your discipline and your willingness to continue to commit to something that is freeing you, making you more abundant, releasing you, taking heavy emotions, releasing heavy burdens, you know, making things more free and flowy in your life. You know, these are the byproducts of that. You know, but not a lot of people, we don't understand that that's happening when we show gratitude and compassion, or at least the openness to see things from a different space, when we're in these times, especially in the fourth quarter. You know, this is all about that purging, releasing, coming to terms with things before the new thing, before the renew, you know. And a lot of us might be renewed every 3 days and not even realize it, that there's a bunch of cycles and patterns that we should all pay attention to, because the moon is never in one sign for more than 2 to 3 days at this point, you know. And kind of like understanding your own behavior or your own reactions or the outside reactions of others will tell you how deeply influenced and sensitive you are to everything that is happening right now, because you're the one watching it. You know, you're in observance of all these things that are happening, and it's like, oh well, the cards are right if you do tarot or if you listen to a message here, you know, because the cards are telling, they're speaking of being, everything being all over the place. But are you all over the place? Are you the one seeing that everything is all over the place and then kind of like taking the deep dive into why does it have to be this way? Or are you enjoying the clarity that you're receiving right now, and you don't get the fuck up off your chair saying, oh, okay, thank you. This is happening outside of myself, therefore I don't have to resonate with it. I have to be aware of it, and I don't have to take it on like it's like somebody's weight, like I'm carrying a bag, you know, or I'm dragging, you know, dumbbells from my ankles. You know, you don't have the lethargy. You have more energy, you have more awareness, you have more clarity, you have more confidence. You motivate yourself to wake up in the morning in a completely different way, knowing that you're divinely led when you understand how these things are happening, right? You allow these things to happen more naturally instead of fighting it and saying, well, you know, I got to try harder, or, you know, I got to beat myself up in some type of way to make sure that I maintain some kind of discipline. But the reality of it is that discipline creates itself when you're motivated and you're focused on it, you know? And that's the beauty of this understanding, you know, this clarity that we have the ability to have, because it allows us to utilize logic and wisdom simultaneously and not allow ourselves to be emotionally affected by our decisions or our choices. As a matter of fact, we make more intuitive ones, and it seems like everything's going and flowing our way now, you know, and it doesn't look like what we want it to look like, but we know we're actually taking the steps to maintain that, to continue that manifestation, to continue to propel the life that you so deserve, because you believe in it now, because you've been shown enough to make you aware that not everything is out of your control, but it is in your awareness, you know, because there's a lot of things happening that you can't explain. And a lot of things happening that you can't explain is from the lack of focus of the gifts that we're all being given right now by the planetary plane. None of this has been done before. We're in a completely different energy, which is asking us to respond and react to that energy and connect with that energy to make us more conscious about what's happening in our lives and actually create the abundance, the free type flow that we look for, the peace, the harmony, the healing, you know, whatever it is that you're here to do, whatever it is that motivates you, whatever it is that brings love and joy into the world somehow, is something that, you know, we should all be understanding. It's kind of like a responsibility, because we are the very thing that we describe. We are the very thing that we want. Everything that we look outside of ourselves, we're actually looking for something that is missing inside of ourselves, and we're looking outside instead of in, you know, because everything outside of ourselves is a reflection of who we are, right? And a lot of people will focus that their fucking life experience is basically shit and kind of put themselves down, possibly, you know, in a way where it's like, oh, well, the universe is matching me and all I'm having is shit. Well, it's waiting for you to release that perspective of what's happening in your life. And she's basically showing you the shit before the shine, you know, not knowing that the Great Mother is always listening to our prayers and our actions and monitoring our behaviors. So it's like right now, it's like, hey, you understand you have these divine gifts. Therefore, you are divine. You are spirit. You are soul. You are self-embodied, you know. Realizing that these things are, you know, they're responsibilities. They're not just gifts you have. They're responsibilities that point you in the direction of the divine, because your teachings are calling to you, you know. And then the answer the call, where we have, you know, interviewed many in that space to see if they'll answer the call, you know, and step up, you know, into places where they're designed to be, where they were meant to be, where their, you know, their godlike sense or their consciousness or their Christ self is established and understood, not in a way where you think you are the high and the mighty, but more of a balanced perspective of what's actually happening here, and enjoying the naturality of it, and understanding that you are also an influence and a part of it. You know, doesn't that bring peace to your heart, understanding that your very well-being and your focus on yourself and the internal malfunctions that may be happening right now are actually making the world a better place for yourself? You know, it's like I almost feel like they say, where's the gratitude in that? Where's the awareness for everything that you are? Where's the sunlight? You know, Where's the promise to yourself? But a lot of people don't realize that their heart chakras are fluctuating because they're closing, because they're sensitive, and they're going into survival mode, and they're consistently going in and out, and they're just trying to take a breath right now, is what I'm being told. You know, and it may seem overwhelming for many, but it really isn't. It's an illusion that's in your face that is telling you that is not who you are. And that's why a lot of people are kind of like having this chest space opened up and realizing that they're a lot more tender and vulnerable than they have been before. And let's get into the topic of our nervous systems and how they are no different from any green grass on the planet. You know, that our nerves are spirit. So we have more awareness that our nerves have been racked and rocked, and we've been in survival mode for so long that we reach the point of no return where it's no longer engageable. Like, you can't tolerate that shit anymore, or you're just shut down one way or another, or it rattles your cage and you think that you're going nuts because there's something wrong with your body and it's freaking out. You know, if that's you right now, you know, hey, go get that shit checked out. But understand that the nervous system is probably one of the most important things that you have in this experience, as a spirit in a body, as that soul embodiment. You know, it's your connection to all that is. It is the very thing that you are. Gaia's roots are within you, and respecting the roots and understand that they have to be nourished and fed is not shitty behavior. You know, because that's the opposite of, we actually create, we make ourselves more acidic because we're not speaking love into ourselves and we're not embracing that flow. We're fighting against it because the construct outside ourselves, or our personal environment, or our experiences are affecting those things consistently, distracting us from the very focus that we need to have right now.